Evening, everyone. So excited to see everyone again. So, if this is your, I'm sure that no one is first time, but some are from AB, some probably from Metta, some are both. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us in this dialogue tonight, organized jointly by AEB, Association of Engaged Buddhists and Metta Center. So if you don't know AEB or Metta Center, they're both not-for-profit organizations aiming to serve the wider community through the skillful and practical teaching of the Buddha. So Metta Center was founded by our fabulous Tina Ng. So Metta Center is a center for spiritual practice, pursuing charitable purposes that advance social welfare and peace within individual families and community and in the world. So they are guided by the principles of Buddhism to do what is good, to avoid what is evil, and to purify the mind. And Association of Engaged Buddhists, as some of you know, that we formed by a group of lay Buddhist practitioners. Some of them are here tonight. And we're supported by an ordained Sangha, which is Bhante Tejadamo. So both organizations offering Dhamma talks, meditation practice, meditation retreats, and community services. So Associations of Engaged Buddhists has a beautiful retreat center at the Southern Highland of New South Wales called Vejasala, which means a place of healing where we hold most of our retreats. So if you're looking for a community to practice and learn, we wish to be able to support you mentally and spiritually in a safe, caring, and supportive environment. So tonight, we're very excited and very grateful to have this dynamic duo, David Oros and Tina Ng, back here today to bring us to embark on the profound journey into exploring different meditation approaches and tapping into the timeless wisdom of the Buddha in both traditional and contemplative practices. So for those who haven't met Tina or David, so I'll just give you a very brief introduction of who they are. So Tina Ng is the founder and president of the Metta Center and also the principal solicitor of Metta Legal, a law firm that deals with cases relating to family law, child protection, property, wills and estates, civil litigation, and guardianship matters. So she's an accredited mediator at Metta Resolution, which provides mediation training and coaching to resolve conflict in the community and within families. And Tina often uses a real life experience in her teaching, which I really find it very interesting and very relatable and very inspirational. And David is a man that walked his talk and lived a very happy and effortless life that many men envy. He's an experienced leader of meditation groups, both in Sydney and Hong Kong. And he often said that his approach is very simple. His aim of practice is the living experience of a meditative approach to everyday life. So ladies and gentlemen, let us put our hand together to welcome our teacher tonight, Tina Ng and David Oros. Thank you again for being here with us tonight, Tina and David. Over to you, Tina.
Thanks so much, Meredith. So good evening, everyone, and welcome. For those who haven't joined David and my sessions, we do things a bit differently, perhaps to what you may be used to. So instead of just delivering a Dhamma talk and it's just a one-way conversation, we try to make these sessions really interactive. And also it's a safe space for all of us to be able to share, learn from each other, and just explore what are our practices and how can we support each other and explore different types of meditative practices. So I encourage you for this evening as well as next Thursday evening to please be a part of our conversation in whatever way that you feel comfortable. So you can either just open and talk, so just unmute yourself and participate in the discussion, or if you prefer, you can also pop it into the chat as well. So I'll be monitoring the chat as we go along. And I will be also asking some reflective questions as we go through. David and I will have some exercises for you as well. David and my approach is actually very similar. We don't prepare for these talks. So we really are here for you. So whatever arises from our discussion, that is what we can talk about. So we are open, all ears, hearts open, ready to have these two events with you. So the topic that we'll be exploring is about exploring meditative practices. And it's a beautiful topic to explore because maybe some of you have been practicing Buddhism or other types of meditation methods for a period of time now. Maybe you're beginners exploring what the different types of meditation practices are. So what we want to talk about is, yeah, we can talk about those traditional practices, but also there's other types of meditative practices that you may not have heard of, or there may be some meditative practices which occur not just on the cushion in formal practice, but in your day-to-day life. So these 2 evenings that we have with you is to explore some of that. How do we make meditation real in your day-to-day? How do we make life a meditation and contemplative type of way of living? So I'm really excited to be here with all of you, and I'm looking forward to our discussions. So as for the start of this, I would like to hand over the virtual mic over to David for him just to give us an opening about the exploring meditative practices and how that resonates with him. So over to you, David.
Thank you, Tina, and Meredith for the wonderful opportunity to be here and the lovely way you introduce it. I love the way that you say that I'm, Meredith, you said that I'm Mr. Effortless and sort of equanimity, and I've somehow cultivated that image. But I have to be honest with you, today I've spent considerable time trying to even get myself on board here to get my mobile hotspot. I'm not a brilliant computer nerd and had a few hitches. So my equanimity was deeply disturbed. So I'm going to start off with a contemplative practice in vivo to to help me out, right? So I'm the client, I'm the one who needs one of these contemplative practices. And I'm going to choose a Tibetan practice called Tonglen to start with. And Tonglen meditation is where you breathe in the suffering, or in my case, whatever you imagined. And I guess we've all been through from time to time situations where we're flustered and we'd like to be cool, calm and collected, but inwardly we're thinking, oh no, is this going to work? And all that sort of stuff. So take yourself there to where you imagine that. And I can tell you, that's actually what happened to me for the 5 minutes before, a bit of sheer panic when I thought I wasn't going to be able to hook up. So what we do in this Tonglen meditation is to breathe in, and I'm going to ask you all to breathe in the suffering, the feelings of upset and frustration and so forth of David, and take it into the heart of loving kindness within yourself. And you mix it, it's almost like you breathe it into the heart. And then as you breathe out, you send David peace, harmony, love, compassion, and just you do a few rounds of that, and I'll be the willing recipient of this healing meditation called Tonglen, Tonglen. And I'll let you know what happens to me as I just open myself to receive Tonglen meditation from this lovely group. So you're breathing in the frustration, the panic of David. You bring it into the heart of compassion, of Metta, within your own being. And then just sending out the intention, may David be peaceful, be happy, be liberated. And just do a few rounds of that, and I'll just receive this wonderful meditative, contemplative blessing. So as I open myself to receive this lovely gift from you, it works immediately. I feel a sense of effortless presence coming back straight away. And there's a sort of just a wonderful, sort of relaxed, joyful feeling. And it works like magic. And so this is a wonderful practice that you can do for others, people who may be suffering illness of some sort or some sort of emotional upheaval. And just, you know, even for a few minutes, just like that, it's really, really wonderful for the practitioner as much as for the person that you're helping. So I thank you for your gift, and I feel so much more at ease and present now. It's so simple. So that's a good example of a Tibetan meditative practice, which I often use. And it's as I said, it's possibly the main beneficiary is the one who's actually doing the meditation. But as well, of course, it's something, it overcomes feelings of helplessness if somebody's going through difficulty and we can't do a lot. When we're sitting meditating, we immediately feel like we're doing something helpful, and it calms us down and helps very much in the relationship. So that's one lovely Tibetan practice which I wanted to mention. The other one that I've been exploring lately is a contemplative art which is called Miksang, another Tibetan practice. Miksang is photography, but it's not just the usual click sort of photography. It's a practice where we're not trying to take a pretty picture or a well sort of composed picture, but we're just open to whatever it is that catches our eye. Whatever comes into awareness, we might be walking along, and one of my teachers who shared her experience of this Miksang was walking along, she's in London, and she was walking along a sort of busy street, and she just saw a white plastic bag of all things curled up in a corner, and then a breeze just took it and sort of opened it and unfurled, and it just rested in a particular shape which caught her eye, and she immediately took a picture of that. And it was a work of art, you know, the sort of immediacy, the spontaneity, and of all things plastic, but it was beautiful in its own way. So any object can be the object of contemplation. So this art in photography is called Miksang, and I'll put into the chat a link, or in fact I'll tell you about it. It's there's a podcast called the Awareness Podcast, which if you just wanted to look up, that goes straight to my teacher called Jenny Beale, who she is talking to a woman called Helen Vink, who is a practitioner of Miksang, and you'll get this wonderful podcast. I'm going to read out her introduction because it gives you a bit of an idea of how somebody comes to a contemplative practice. Helen was one of the people who would be the last person in the world you'd think to be interested in this sort of thing, as you'll hear from her bio. But let me read this to you. Helen Vink is a practitioner and teacher of Miksang, M-I-K-S-A-N-G, a method of contemplative photography. In her late teens, she was an expert ice skater and focused on all her efforts on becoming an Olympic speed skater. But 2 weeks before the Dutch Championships, an accident put an end to her Olympic dream, and her whole world came crashing down. She felt totally lost, initially lacking any clear direction. She spent much of her time partying, discovering normal life, and experimenting with drugs. I heard the backstory. She really did get into it. Her love of art led her to art school, where she studied photography and sculpture. However, the contemporary art scene wasn't what she was really looking for. After another period of despair, she came across the Dharma arts teaching of spiritual teacher Qigong Trungpa and discovered her innocent, childlike joy. I love that. Her focus was initially on the Dharma arts, but she went on to learn meditation and study the Shambhala teachings in Tibetan Buddhism, living and working in Shambhala centers in France and the US. After a number of years, her Dharma teacher, Sakyong Mipam Rinpoche, encouraged her to go back out into the world. She completed her Miksang training and qualified as a Miksang teacher with Michael Wood, who developed the original curriculum for Miksang training. And she now runs Miksang courses in Europe and online, sharing her joy and freedom of being fully present and connected with the beauty of our ordinary everyday experience. So you can check her out, and I'd recommend you have a listen to that podcast. It's really wonderful. So that's another. So all you need to do, and even with an iPhone these days, you know, it's quite good enough. But you can go as far as you like with the actual, you know, camera, and just, you know, have it in your bag and see what occurs to you. My first photo that I took with this Miksang awareness, I was in Rushcutters Bay, and just walking along, there's a lovely wall, and you get the lovely harbour views and the boats just bobbing up and down. And normally I'd be, you know, sort of doing the classic photo shoot, but I just sat down on a bench and just sort of allowed this contemplation. I wonder what a Miksang photographer might do. And as I looked at the wall, I noticed there was a hole in the wall. It was a sandstone wall, a very small hole. And so I thought, what would happen if I just lie down and right next to that wall and just take a picture through the wall, not knowing what it's going to show? And so I clicked my little phone, and the most amazing photograph came up. It was like a sandstone cave, a little tiny, you know, hole in the wall, and it opened out to the Sydney Harbour. And it was, you know, one of the loveliest spontaneous shots I've ever taken. So Miksang can arise and want to express itself if you just open to it. I'd recommend that's a wonderful practice. So that's a bit of an example of the. Oh, there we are. There it is. That's brilliant. Who was the clever one? Tina. You can see that little hole in the wall. And I think there's another one there, isn't there, Tina, of actually looking.
I take no credit for this. This is probably Meredith's good doing. Oh,
right. Did I do the one where you could actually see the picture through the sandstone, through the?
That's the one that you sent to me. Oh, the sandstone. Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you look, there's another one where you can actually look through that hole at the image that you see is blurred, but you can see the detail of the cave. Anyway, you can imagine it if we can't find it. Thanks, Meredith.
Okay.
So that's just an example of the approach that you can have, and it's a wonderful deepening practice. And what it does is it teaches you to have that readiness and that awareness, and not to miss the ordinariness of everyday life. And there's the next one I took was I was just walking along. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So you can see that little hole. Look at that. I was fascinated by the cave-like quality, and then the view through there. Something about it being blurred which appealed to me. but that's not the usual sort of picture that I would take. So that's thanks for that, Meredith, for putting that up. That's exactly what I wanted to share with you. So that's my first example of Miksang photography. Okay.
I love it. It's a really nice, it's not just a nice photo visually, but also the heart and the fact that you saw it. Other people would see something that's broken. And to you, you saw that, which is beautiful.
Saw it and snapped it. Yeah. So there's a whole range, of course, of artistic, musical, writing practices which you could use that idea of breaking the mold of trying to do something perfect, and just whatever presents itself to your awareness as you carry your little pen. And of course, poets and writers often do that, don't they? They mine just everyday life for ideas for their next thing. This is a contemplative type of practice. Some other more classical ones, which I'll mention, and we can talk about if you like. Of course, the meditation on impermanence is another wonderful meditation where we can, literally go to a graveyard, and instead of being sort of turned off, we turn towards it, and just allow that understanding, which is present with all the graves in the graveyard, to remind us of impermanence in a very immediate way. And just to contemplate that can be very powerful. And similarly, we can meditate on emptiness, the reality that whatever we're seeing in the objective world is formless, as well as being apparently form. Like my little cave, if you look closer and imagine if you had an electron microscope and you kept going, ultimately, you'd come to the little tiny sub-quarks and goodness knows what else, and everything would disappear. So the contemplation on emptiness is a wonderful one to break up attachments and to realize that we're all an appearance in awareness, or Buddha mind, if you like, without that sort of, concreteness which we normally think of when we identify ourselves as a separate being. Another lovely contemplation is on the interdependence of everything. So, we might see an orange, and instead of just the usual way that we relate to the orange, we can place it in the totality. We can think of the sun shining on it. We can think of the rain falling on it. We can think about the person who planted the tree. We can think about how everything, that the entire universe actually comes together to create this orange. And we can choose any object to contemplate. Some of the other lovely ones, of course, Tina, you're going to tell us more at some point, I'm sure, about Metta meditation and loving kindness, and that's a beautiful one. I'll leave that one to you. And also Vipassana, that's one of your lovely ones that we can talk about, insight into reality. The other one that I like to explore, and this is a fairly esoteric practice, but it can be very, very simple as well. The practice of working with the Zen koan. And when you first hear about the koans, they're like, they do your head in, what does it mean? Even the simple one, like what is the sound of one hand clapping? But once you sit with that in a contemplative way, it takes you to what took me to an amazing place. The first thing is the mind is just lost. I mean, how does it make sense? One hand clapping. It's ridiculous, and that's often the first response to working with the koan. But as I worked with it over a period of time, and I imagined, one hand clapping against what? Of course, nothingness. But really, is it nothingness? And then I sort of thought, well, what if you bring the material objective world to meet emptiness? What would be the sound of that? And I just quieted myself and wondered about that. And then suddenly I just fell into emptiness and fullness coming together. And it was sort of thunderous, you know. It was an amazing sort of fullness of all the senses that happened, and just taking that contemplation day by day over a period of time. And suddenly the meaning, the experience, not the concept, revealed itself. So you can be surprised. So you can take almost any Zen koan and play with it and go quite deeply with it. There are many others. Of course, one of my favorites is Thich Nhat Hanh's approach to walking meditation, which is a beautiful one. I like to do this, especially if I'm doing any intensive meditation for a period of time. The body seems to ask, hey, how about me? You know, get off the cushion and go and have a stretch and go for a walk. And it's not just going for a walk, but Thai would say, every step a lotus beneath your feet, and you're kissing the earth with your feet. So you slow down and you feel that wonderful connection with every step that you take, and see how that changes the way that you walk. You know, I've seen Thai walking with a group of monks, and they're all as one, you know, kissing the earth. And what a beautiful practice that can be. There are many others. I'll just mention a couple more. The body scan is another beautiful meditative practice where we can scan the body from head to foot very slowly and just invite any contractions or limitations just to open up. And you know, this can be done over a long period of time with wonderful benefits to the body and the mind. Mantra meditation is another beautiful one, and you can take almost any mantra, but the one that just the very simple one that I like working with is Om. When we first hear Om, we see it often spelled as O-M, but we can think of it as comprised of A-U-M. And one of my teachers explained to me that this very simple mantra contains everything. The Ah is the opening, the beginning. The formless comes into form at that point. And the Ow, the mouth fills up. There's a filling up, a fullness. And then the is the closing. So Ow. And then in a group, you repeat that, and there's no beginning, there's no end. It's just here now. So I'd suggest we just try doing that together and see what your experience of just chanting this beautiful, wonderfully profound mantra. So let's go. So if we were to do that for a period of time, and we could hear everyone simultaneously, which I haven't figured out how to do, you would have just one continuous sound. And that's a living example of the continuity of what we are. We often identify with this separateness, which is something which is born and dies. But when we touch into that meditation, we touch into something wonderful. So that's a brief introduction. Of course, there are many more practices, which perhaps you can share your favorites. But I'd like to now take it back to Tina, if you'd like to invite people, having heard a couple of those, if that takes you somewhere, Tina, we could ask people to join in a bit more with that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, David. And what a great list that you've got going here. So for those who can see the screen, I've just been popping down what David has said in terms of each of the different types of practices. And if you're interested in any of these, then you can, of course, explore them further. So I'm going to tell you guys a story soon. But before I do, I want to pose a question to all of you. And I'm going to pop that into the chat, which is, what type of meditation practice do you find useful? So what do you do? So I would like to hear from you. And you could just pop your answers into the chat box. And if you have more than one meditation practices, you are, of course, very welcome to put more than one down. Would you like to hear a story?
Just before that, Tina, so in case if anyone, if you don't know how to put the chat, if you see that there's a chat icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen, if you click on that, you will see the text on the side, so you can see all the texts that all the messages that we put in the chat box. So if you have, if you need any help, you can just, let us know. Okay.
Great. Thanks so much for that. Yes. So we've got some answers coming through, which is great. So we'll come back to that. And while people are typing, I will share a short story. So I thought I'll share this story after hearing David's first choice of meditation practice, which is Tonglen, and the practice that we did today. And I want to share this story because I would just want you to see that these practices that we're talking about, that you can take them anywhere with you, right? Just see these different practices almost like a toolbox. And depending on what arises in a particular situation, you can then look into your toolbox and see what is the practice that works. And sometimes what arises for you may not be what you thought would be the best practice, but something that just comes to you. And that is what is most applicable in that moment. So I'm going to share with you a story. And it's a story that I don't tell often, actually, because it's a story that is very close to my heart. So not long ago, I had a good friend of mine, his father was passing away. And so my husband and I were invited to come and visit him when he was in palliative care in hospital. And when we arrived, he was in a lot of pain and he was about to get some new morphine shots. And we knew that if that was going to happen, he was probably not going to be able to speak to us that evening, but he was in just so much pain. And the nurse was actually in the process of getting that medication ready to see him. So my husband Zen and I, we went in and we saw what he was like. And what came to me was just this practice of contemplation of virtue. Okay, so for those who haven't practiced this before or heard of this, they call it contemplation or recollection of virtue. In Pali, it's called Sila Nusati. And it's one of the 6 things to recollect. And I'll put the others into the chat. So the 6 recollections is you can recollect on the Buddha, the qualities of the Buddha. You can recollect on the Dhamma, the Sangha, generosity, virtues, and the Devas. Okay, so I'm going to pop that into the chat for you. So what I did was, in some ways, I kind of led him through that recollection of virtues. So we started to recollect some of the good deeds that he's done, some of the things that I know he has done, and that I can rejoice with him in terms of what he does. And it was really interesting because talking to me, he actually became more lively, more energetic. The nurse came in and asked him whether or not he wanted his morphine, and he said, no, I want to keep talking. And in fact, he kept talking for hours until like 9:30, and he didn't. And we were the ones that were like, I think you need to rest. We need to go. It was just really, really interesting that he just changed. And his wife, who was there, kept making the remarks like, you can talk to us this way. But with Zen and me there, we were allowing him to recollect and brighten his mind, importantly, and he brightens his mind, actually not through talking to us, it's because he was recollecting on the virtues, on the good things that he's done, with gratitude for his life. And also in that session, we were able to talk about that because of his life and what he has done, it's a letting go process as well. So it was quite a beautiful session. So I'm sharing this with you because if you feel that sometimes yourself or someone is in a really dark place, you can consider recollecting on some of these, right? Having some contemplation or reflection, particularly of your generosity and your virtues. So every day you could do this. Every day you can recollect, just at the end of the day, when you're sitting in bed about to sleep, what were some of the good things that you've done throughout the day? And just brighten your mind. Because sometimes what can happen is we get really bogged down by our negative thoughts that we're not good enough, that we're not, we've made mistakes, or when we think about the day that's passed, we're thinking, oh, I should have done that, I shouldn't have said this. But we don't actually take the time enough to reflect on our virtues and our generous qualities. Okay, so that was one part of the story. Then, not long after, we received a text to say that it's probably going to be my friend's last day. So again, my husband and I were invited to attend, and we were very honored because this was really his last moments. And when we arrived, he was at a state where he was about to pass. And for me, my go-to meditation in situations like this is metta meditation. So I was ready to sit and just do lots of metta meditation. But when I sat down, what came to me was Tonglen. And I hardly ever practice Tonglen, can I tell you? I learnt this ages ago, and it's just never really clicked for me for some reason. But that day, I just felt the suffering in the room, the family crying, I really just felt that pain. So I naturally just went into Tonglen. And in that practice, I was drawing in all of the suffering, all of the pain, all of the angst into me. And I could feel that tightening, that tightness that comes with pain and tension and suffering. I can actually feel that as a physical sensation. And then as it comes into me, what I share out and send out is light and peace and courage and love, all of those qualities that I want to send to this person. And the interesting thing is, it really felt physically, not just mentally, a difference in what was being received and what was sent. And that went for some time. And then at one point, when I was drawing in the pain, there was nothing coming to me. It was like everything just stopped. And I checked and I thought, is it because I got distracted? Is it because I missed the mark here? But no, it was just nothing was coming. And in my mind, I called him Uncle. So in my mind, I just went, Uncle, are you still here? And I knew at that time that he had passed. And then not long after, I heard some shuffling around the room, and people were starting to feel his temperature because he was getting cold. They called the nurse in, and the nurse was checking to see whether or not he was still there. And I knew he was no longer there. And not surprisingly, the nurse then said that he has passed, right? Later on, I shared this with and I should say, when I asked him, Uncle, are you still there? And I just knew that he had passed, he has left his body. Then instinctively, I just guided him through the next part, which is, if you see a light, this is what you do, and just talking him through it. And the interesting thing is, when I shared this story with his loved ones, it really gave them a lot of comfort. So I'm sharing this story with you because you never know which meditation practice will come to your aid, and you never know the impact that it will help you and those around you in what you do. And the other point of this story is that meditation is not just on the cushion. It's not just in retreats. It's not just in formal practice. It's something that is alive and something that you can take with you in your daily life, in whatever circumstance that you meet. So I leave that story with you. I hope you enjoy that and the lessons that came with it. And David, if there's anything you wanted to add, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I'll go through the chat and see what people have popped in there.
Well, firstly, thank you so much for that very heart-moving story. And, you know, the way that you told it, I could really experience that wonderful presence. You're a beautiful person, Tina. That's just something that brings in the essence of the Buddha's teaching to me, that you just responded to what needed to happen in that moment. And they're wonderful. I wanted to say, I noticed in the chat, I was just looking through and I noticed that Belinda's saying, I'm new to meditation. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? You know, we've got beginner's mind here. Beginner's mind, Belinda, is a wonderful attribute where we assume that we know nothing and we just go fresh into the unknown. So what a privileged position you're in this group, because many of us are pretty seasoned meditators. What would it be like to be the first time? And I was just wondering, you know, what would be a very simple, and just we'll give a little brief sort of taste of beginner's mind for you, Belinda. And we'll just meditate on the breath for one moment. So you just all you do is just allow yourself to be held in the chair, then just allow yourself just to feel the feet under the floor. And you might want to let your eyes closed, or you can leave them open, it's up to you. But just let yourself sort of sink down and let go. Just like if I was to lift your arm up and let it go, we just go flop, everything letting go, no effort at all. And notice how easy the body feels just by letting go. And then we notice the breath coming in through the nostrils and out through the mouth. Just noticing. We can notice subtle differences in each breath. And when the body's completely at ease, we can ask ourselves the question, am I breathing, or is breathing just happening by itself? And in that simple contemplation, we open up a profound realization that everything is happening by itself. We don't have to make any effort. We just show up and listen and watch and experience. And we can do it anywhere, anytime, as Tina said, in ordinary life. This is meditation. And in a few minutes, we can feel the benefits of peace, openness, joy. So utterly simple. And then we can allow the eyes to open and come back to everyday awareness, which is not different from the meditative awareness that seems so profound. It's very simple. And here you are. So I'd like to hear, if you feel like sharing, what your first experience of meditation was like.
I do feel quite relaxed, but I don't know what's going on in my mind. I try to relax, and it's quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, so that's a perfect response, that you say, I don't know what's going on. That sort of not knowing is actually a
That's
beautiful
right.
quality. Yeah, of openness, you see, to what actually is, rather than having any preconception about how it should go. So you immediately sort of entered into that, and it's only a few minutes, but if we, in our busy working life, during the day, we just take a few minutes off and just simply do that little exercise, it can change how we handle stress, and so helpful in a very simple way. So that's just a very simple introduction to meditation. Just wanted to share that with you. I hope it's made you sort of curious to look further.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. And on that point about beginner's mind and starting your first meditation, it's really helpful for all of us, no matter how long you've been practicing meditation, to still encourage that, to still have that beginner's mind, to approach every meditation as if it is your first, because you don't know what's going to happen in your meditation. So not prejudging it, not having expectations that it has to be a certain way. And I often use this exercise, not just in meditation, but also in general life as well. So this is an activity that I would like to share with all of you. Maybe you can do some homework and let us know how you go next week. And the activity is that you live as if it's your first time. So sometimes in couple relationship issues, I have people who say to me, oh, I've got issues with my husband and my wife. I don't understand them. I don't understand my kids. I don't understand people or a situation. So if you've ever felt this way, then maybe this activity would help you. So what can happen sometimes is we get really bogged down by our expectations, our judgments, our preconceptions. And so if you want to break through from that, the activity is that you meet this person or the situation as if you are meeting them for the first time. So in these examples, I would ask the husband or the wife to go home and meet their partner as if they're meeting them for the first time. And it's really amazing what can come out of that, because then they don't see them just as they normally are and their habitual tendencies, and they react in their habitual ways, but they actually see them anew. So the practice of beginning anew is something that in the Plum Village tradition that they practice as well, but I think it's really beautiful. And it's about being able to see things fresh, see things anew, rather than bringing all of the past and all of the hurt, all of the resentment into the situation, allowing that freshness as you let that go and start anew. So whether you do that with your meditation, so if you sit down in meditation, just allow this to be as if you're meditating for the first time and allowing whatever is to arise, or whether it's in a relationship, or whether it's in a situation, being able to see things differently, different perspective, or just in your day-to-day life, no matter what you're doing. So if you've ever gone on holidays, when you go on holidays and everything just to a very foreign place, how everything just seems really exciting and different, and you are fully present and aware everywhere you go. It's like, oh my goodness, that's so cute. That's so pretty. That's so wonderful, right? That's so different to what I'm used to. So your senses are alive. You're very present. You're not just in your head. And the reason is because it's a new situation for you. Imagine if you can do that in your daily life, no matter where you are. You don't have to go traveling. So tomorrow, when you walk your usual walk, whether it's from your car through the car park or whether you're walking to the train station, you may have walked that walk 100 times, 1,000 times, But tomorrow, the homework for you is to walk that walk or do whatever that routine is, but do it as if it's the first time you're doing it. And it's amazing how quickly your presence and your openness and mindfulness can be brought into that moment. And then you'll feel so alive. And the quality of your life changes as well, because you start to notice things that you didn't notice before in other people, in the world around you, even within yourself. Okay, so shall we go through some other things that's in here? So in the chat, we have some answers. We've got body scan. So that's from Vicky. Thank you, Vicky. So body scan is a really good practice. And David, feel free to jump in with any of these if you have any additional comments as well. Body scan's really good because we've always got the body around with us, right? So throughout your day, anytime, you can actually just notice your body, notice your posture, notice if there's any tension that you can relax. Because very often when we have tension in the body, we've got tension in the mind. When we have tension in the mind, we have tension in the body. So throughout your day, just being able to relax, let go physically as well as mentally. Okay, and Riz one has offered self-compassion. That is really, really good, Riz. And good to see you, by the way. Yeah, like having self-compassion is really important. And come with that is self-love, metta, unconditional love, acceptance, forgiveness, all of those things. And again, not just on the cushion, but also every moment, right? Particularly when there are thoughts that aren't compassionate towards ourselves, that's the best time to practice this. David, anything to add to that?
That's a lovely list. And I just wanted to share a story you just remind me of with a friend of mine, an old friend from medical school. I often go visit. We have a game of chess together. And he was preparing a little sandwich for lunch for me. And you can imagine this sort of kitchen bench between us. I'm sitting on a stool, he's in the kitchen. And he passed me a glass of water and I put my hand up to take the glass. And it was a very beautiful crystal glass. And the glass fell down and then tumbled off the table and smashed to smithereens. The water was all over the place. And I just noticed my first reaction was to think, oh, he's so clumsy, you know. I went straight to judgment. And I didn't actually say anything, but I think it must have been pretty obvious that, you know, I took absolutely no responsibility for that. And he sort of came around and started cleaning up the glass and everything, wouldn't let me move until all the glass was gone. He was so sweet. And then, you know, we had a connection, a game of chess, and then I went home. And when I got home, I just, you know, had some time to myself, and I thought, maybe it was me who dropped the glass. And then I started realizing that, in fact, you know, I play a lot of golf, and I've had a sort of, you know, chronic gradual weakening of the right wrist, and I noticed my grip is not nearly as reliable as it normally is, and I'd only just realized it. So in that moment, I suddenly became aware. I'm meeting myself anew. This is a new David. This is a David with a wobbly hand, and I have to remember that and factor that in. So I'm meeting myself as though I were meeting a new person. And I thought that's a great lesson, you know. And so I rang him up and I said, you know, look, I realized, you know, it was actually me who dropped the glass. And he said, yeah, it certainly was. You know, he reminded me very, very firmly that there's no doubt about that. So I was absolutely right. But it was a lovely lesson, you know. Who are we today? It's a good way to wake up in the morning.
Yeah. And also recognizing that our mind is different throughout the day and moment to moment. So sometimes I get people asking me about meditation, and they say, oh, I have great meditation in the morning when my mind is fresh, but I have terrible meditation at night because the mind is tired and sluggish. And can you see that judgment that comes in, right? But the mind is different. The mind in the morning is fresh. It's got energy. The mind at the end of the day, understandably, is tired. So having that self-compassion, not being so judgmental, and being able to see that we do change from day to day. And sometimes we may have that wobbly hand. Wonderful. Okay. Some other answers. So from Mushi, you've got breath meditation. Yes, a very, very good meditation, because like the body, the breath is with us all the time. Thank goodness. Okay. You stop breathing, you won't be with us. So yeah, breath meditation. But also the breath is a really good object, because it's there's not a lot of these body functions. Okay. There's only the breath that I know of, and the other one is you're blinking. And both of these body functions, you can control it, but also you can be completely unmindful of it and it would still continue to function. And when we're contemplating on the breath, we're actually doing neither. So we're not controlling the breath, and we're not just being unmindful of it, but rather we are mindful of the natural breathing. So it really teaches us about how to be mindful, but with equanimity, to be observing, but not to get lost in it and not to control it. So yeah, so great. Good to continue that practice with breath. Body scan, so that's another one that's come up again. Metta practice, which is good. So for those who don't know about metta practice, it's loving kindness practice. It's the practice of being able to share your loving kindness, your unconditional love to yourself, to your loved ones, to people who are neutral. They call it neutral person. So people like, the ones who you meet off the streets, you don't know very well, but you can still share loving kindness towards them. And you also can share loving kindness to the fourth category of people, which is the people that you dislike, right? So the idea is, as you keep practicing loving kindness to these four types of people, what you're doing is you're breaking down those barriers that we have. So instead of I like you if, or I like you but, rather it's just being able to I love you and I accept you for who you are, and not having so many of those barriers. So metta practice is beautiful. Metta is also one of the 4 Brahma Viharas, so the 4 immeasurable qualities. So you can practice all 4 together. And I love this practice. I practice this not only on the cushion, but definitely in my day-to-day life as well. So I hope you enjoy this practice too. So one is when you meet someone or you meet yourself, having that unconditional love, that metta for them. The second is the practice of karuna, which is compassion. So when people aren't doing so well, or you're not doing so well, you bring your compassion to wish them out of their suffering. The third is joy, piti. So it's being able to have we've got metta, karuna, mudita, I should say, mudita. Piti is joy in meditative practice. So we've got mudita, which is being able to be joyful for other people's good fortunes and yourself. Okay, when do you actually give yourself a real pat on the back for good things that you've done, right? So rejoicing in your good qualities, rejoicing in your good fortune. And same when something good happens to other people, we rejoice in that rather than having feelings of jealousy, for example. And then the fourth quality, which is so, so important, is the practice of upekkha, equanimity. So having a balanced mind, a calm mind that doesn't get swayed this way or that way. And the practice of equanimity also allows you to balance the other qualities as well. So this is something that you can practice in your day-to-day. As situations arise, bring up one of the Brahma Viharas. Use that as a way to develop these 4 qualities within you, and also to change the surroundings of people around you, as well as how you approach different situations that come up. Okay, so that's great. I'm just going to pause there to see if David had anything he wanted to add.
Sorry, I was just saying that's very comprehensive coverage of metta, beautiful. And No, I think you've covered it wonderfully.
Thanks,
Tina.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next is the traditional Japanese dance and Tai Chi. Wow, Moshi, you are so talented. So I actually hope Lakshmi doesn't mind me asking, but Lakshmi does Tai Chi, and I would love to hear from her if she's interested to share a bit about her Tai Chi practice and how it helps her with her meditation practice.
I think Tai Chi is meditation in a sense, like you totally let go of everything, just very present in the moment. You just being aware, totally aware of your body, because in the Tai Chi, there's a lot of emphasis too about the posture, how you hold your body. So totally aware of your body, and then each movement, you are aware. Also, Tai Chi also quite emphasis on where you put the weight of the feet. Always like yin yang, like one foot is yin, so that means that carry more weight. Another foot is yin, that is like all empty, that's like you don't put so much weight on it. So you are aware of where you put your weight, where you how you each step, how you move, and also your imagination, like your mind is imagining or visualize each move, like because the Tai Chi is also martial art. So imagining there's an Emily in front of you, and you are as well as like moving your hand or your arms. You also imagine the energy that goes to your arm. So it's totally in the moment of like how you move, how you breathe, and how you carry your body. To me, it basically is a movement meditation. You don't lie down, but you move, but you don't just move, unconscious that you move with each move. Is a lot of awareness. You know exactly what you're doing. Your mind is totally in tune with the movement, and have a visualization or sending the energy, because what is the concept of energy follow thought. So you have the imagination. For instance, you want to punch the person. You don't actually, in Tai Chi, you don't punch, right? But you do have the intention and the energy of punching the person, and the energy will goes to their hand. And so I think it's absolutely a meditation. And also at the end of the practice, feel relaxed, feel energized, not like excited, but very calm. And you're really in tune with your breath, in tune with your body, actually in tune with nature, because the whole principle is based on yin and yang. So you always experience the opposites in terms of movement, in terms of body posture. And it's a very, what should I say, three-dimensional exercise, because you're aware of, not to control, but you really relax your body, so that every movement is not out of like use your muscle, but it's just totally moving your lower body really, and being aware of where you carry the weight. And it is, to me, is a very good holistic practice, not just for relaxation, and also for a chance to totally in tune with your body and your breath. And at the end, just feel energized and feel peaceful and joyful too, because the movement is very enjoyable. Well, I'm a beginner, so whatever I share is just sharing from an experience of beginner. So you need to talk to some master, who will tell you a lot more.
Thanks. That's amazing.
Yeah, Tina, I would also like to share, because since you're asking Lakshmi, about Tai Chi thing, I find that for myself, especially sometimes when your mind is very, very active, like at certain days you have like it's just monkey mind and it's like sitting down, it's becoming a little bit challenging at certain time. I find that when I do Qigong, I do Qigong.
Yes,
So
yeah.
yeah, so it for me it's like a combination of the it's a type of meditative practice
Yes,
actually.
yes,
So it kind of help to because of the body movement, so your mind goes into the movement as well. So it's kind of like stop that monkey mind
yes,
going around.
yes, yes,
So
yes,
it kind of help as well. And also why I say it's meditative practice, because it's just same like meditations as you do, because you're concentrating on the breathing in, breathing out,
yes.
and your movement. And at times where you will find that your mind's going somewhere, you find that your movement is not as
Yeah,
smooth
definitely.
as
Yeah,
comfortable. And then when you
yeah,
realize that, okay, bring your mind back. So
yes,
I find that it's quite a very good meditation practice as well,
yeah. And
especially
do
when
you
our
feel,
mind.
how do you feel after the practice?
Yeah, if you really have, for me, if I really
Mm,
have that full focus on the breathing as well as the movement, at the
mm,
end of it, you just feel very good, like, very energized, as you say, and very relaxed, and your mind's kind of like calm down.
mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Tai
it's very
Chi,
helpful.
yeah, similar experience. Yeah, it's very, it really like you sort of engaged in with the mind, with the body, and with the breath, and with the whole thing. And it's
Yeah.
beautiful too. It's you move very gracefully and yeah.
Mm. Yeah,
But
thank you for sharing, Lakshmi.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And someone on the
okay.
chat, Lakshmi, asked you, where do you learn Tai Chi? Because this person is starting to learn and they don't incorporate elements of breath, more on the form.
Oh yeah, actually, the breath. Well, my teacher always say, when you first start, don't worry about the breath, because when you worry about it, you become sort of nervous and tight. Your body become tight, not relaxed. And Tai Chi, the principle is you more you relax, and they're more powerful. The whole thing is so. Because you actually like martial art too. When you fight, when you're really a good martial art person, I'm not sure whether you've seen movies. They can just move an arm, like, and then you can send people flying out, something like that. But it's actually impossible, because what happens is when you're totally relaxed. So when people hit you, the energy goes back to them, right? Because you're so relaxed, you don't take in any force, so and that force just bounce back to the person, and it's possible really for somebody who a real master can do that. Since then, somebody who's trying to hit, push them, anything, they push themselves back in the opposite direction. Yeah, so in a way, yeah, that's quite amazing.
Yeah, that is really amazing. When you get to that state, can you give us a demonstration, please, Lakshmi?
Maybe not in my lifetime. Because
well, what I can do that is similar, not physically, but mentally, this is what we all can do, which is if someone comes with you with not physical abuse, but verbal abuse, you can also be really relaxed and be Teflon.
yes.
And then they can take it back.
Yes. You can try that. I think David wants to be back on the show.
Thanks, Lakshmi. Thanks for that guest appearance. Okay, next answer. So Eugene says mantras and gradually slowing it down. So Eugene, that reminds me a bit like what Chalkun King tells us, right? So you do Budo, but don't do it slow. You have to do like machine gun kind of Budo. So yeah, mantras can be very, very helpful, especially when our mind is just ruminating and thinking about other things, and having that mantra just to calm our mind down and bring it to stillness is very, very helpful indeed. Great. Okay. Faye said body scan, so another body scan enthusiast. Breath, good. As well as walking. Walking meditation is very, very useful. So similar to what we're just saying in terms of Tai Chi and Qigong, something physical sometimes is what's needed. And sometimes the way we walk is also really important too. So if we need to, you don't have to do slow walking. You can actually do running if you need to. If your mind is just so all over the place and it's really hard for you to slow it down, do some running. And then after the running, after a while, then you do some fast walking, and then you do some slow walking, and then you can sit. So sometimes that can be also really useful to bring your mind to that quiet, still place. Okay, Faye, you've also said set question and wait. That's really interesting. I do something, but I don't know if it's the same as what you do. So I'd love to hear from you, Faye. What do you do with that?
Yeah, I'm interested to hear that too, Faye.
Okay, I haven't done it for a while, but when something's upsetting me, for instance, I might just put a question out, what's this about? Or if it's the same old problem, same thing, what's the issue? But you have to wait. It doesn't, sometimes you get, but it might be a week, and it might be more subtle. You just notice you're not worrying about that point so much. But when you get an insight, it's really nice.
That's excellent. Excellent, Faye. So yeah, that's something that I have tried before as well. Sometimes what I do is in meditation, so just before meditating, I make a question.
Before, set the question. Yeah.
And then you just drop the question in and then just see what comes up. For some, and sometimes also I encourage other people to do this if they're trying to figure something out about themselves, because sometimes there are things within us that we don't really want to see, that we've got walls, we've got locks, we've got things behind doors that we don't want to see. And it takes a lot of courage and patience to go there.
Absolutely.
And meditations are a really safe space for that to happen. So having your meditation practice, you can start with whatever people have said, body scan, start with compassion, start with breath. And then you get to a point where your mind is something you can work with. And then you're ready to look deeper. And that's when you can set your question. And I also encourage people to delve deeper than that. So if you find an answer to your question, maybe there's another question that may arise in relation to that. Generally, that question is, but why? Okay, so what you go deeper and deeper and deeper until you hit a spot. And usually that spot is a really soft, vulnerable spot that you don't really usually get to. So it's a very sensitive spot. And then okay, I think I've got to the core of the problem here. So I find that that's very, very helpful. And meditation's a really safe space that you can explore that. So Faye, keep going. Sounds like you've got some really good practices happening over there. Thank you. Okay. Soph is curious about forgiveness meditation. Yes, excellent type of practice. David, anything you'd like to add about this? How to do forgiveness meditation?
Thanks, Tina. Yes, that's a great one. So it's I like the word. If you look at the word forgiveness, it gives us a clue about how to approach it. It's giving forth, which is letting go, basically. So when we meditate, we come into the present, don't we? We come into here and now. And really, if we look deeply, we'll see that the past is nowhere to be found and the future's not here. We literally are here as a fresh experience of ourselves. And we just have to ask ourselves the question, what am I holding on to in terms of self-judgment, judgment of others, and just asking that question in a very gentle way, and then the answer will come. And we can recognize the body, holding on to stuff. It can be tension in the body. We can breathe into it, and we start to melt. We start to open our heart to ourselves and to others. And there's a direct relationship between the pointing finger. If we point the pointing finger, there's 3 fingers pointing back at me, so that any judgment of another person is also very much about me. I'm judging myself without realizing it. So forgiveness meditation is very, very powerful. And it's just a question of coming totally into the present, where time and space basically collapse. And this is it. And there's nothing. We're carrying nothing here. We don't have to carry a single thing forward. We really don't. It's a choice. Some of us make the choice to hold on to things for various reasons, but we really don't have to. We give ourselves permission to put that luggage down. So sometimes I just imagine, walking across the road, do I really want to carry all those heavy suitcases across the road with me? Could I just leave them on the side of the pavement? Well, maybe I could. So that's some ideas. So I hope that's helpful for you.
Thanks, David. Sometimes I do this exercise in a group, and it's quite a powerful exercise. So you can do it at home if you like, another homework for you. And please do let me know next week if any of this that you've tried out and how you go. So the exercise is that you put a chair and you kneel in front of the chair. And in front of the chair, you imagine who it is that you want to ask forgiveness from. So for example, if you feel that you've wronged, say, your mum or your dad, then you just imagine them sitting on that chair. And then you speak to that person and you ask for forgiveness in a really deep way. And I've had people do this and then they just break out in tears, things that they would never actually say to this person, maybe the person's past, that what comes out is very genuine and very deep and moving. And it's very purifying, it's just like things that people have held in their heart for so long, and they could finally let it out in this way. And then the second part to this activity is then they sit on the chair and they imagine the people who have wronged them to be in front of them, and then for them to offer their forgiveness. And sometimes we find it hard to forgive people straight away. Like I've had people say, I can't do forgiveness. I've tried, can't do it, tried different meditation, tried different ways. So my suggestion is, if you do find it difficult to forgive a certain person or situation, instead of going straight to forgiveness, start with understanding. Deeply understand this person. Try that practice of beginning anew. So instead of just seeing them through your lens and through your hurt and your pain, rather see them for who they really are, not in your eyes, not in your context, but who are they? And you'll realize that they themselves have their own difficulties and challenges and suffering. And often through that lens of understanding, then what arises naturally is deep compassion for them. Because people who are happy do not cause unhappiness to other people. It's people who are unhappy with their situation that often it's through that pain that they are doing something that is harmful and hurtful to other people, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. So if you tap into that pain, that suffering, that ignorance that they have, then the compassion will naturally flow. And through that compassion, forgiveness can flow as well. So I'll share that with you because sometimes that may do the trick as opposed to going straight to forgiveness. Okay, now we've got time for just one more. So this is a comment from Amy. So she talks about 7 factors of enlightenment and 4 foundations of mindfulness. So what are those factors? So thank you, Amy, for sharing this. I always really enjoy talking about these topics. 7 factors of enlightenment for all of us to practice. And as you practice meditation and as you practice the Dhamma, you will find that these qualities start to become more bright and prominent within you. So those 7 factors are, firstly, mindfulness, in Pali it's sati. Second is Dhamma vichara, so that's often translated as investigation of the Dhamma. The third one is virya, that's energy. The fourth one is piti, and it's piti with an I, not a Y, and that's like rapture or happiness. So if you feel piti when you're meditating, it's like your body and your mind is just full, particularly body sensations, full of happiness and rapture. Passaddhi is translated as tranquility or calm, and samadhi, the traditional translation is concentration, but also stillness. I like that translation better, actually. The mind becomes very still. And then finally, upekkha, equanimity, what I spoke about earlier. So those 7 factors of awakening are beautiful qualities that we can cultivate in our day-to-day. And then the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So just very quickly, those 4 foundations, essentially, these are the things that you can be mindful about, not just in your meditation, which definitely you can, but also in all the different postures as you go around throughout your day as well. So being mindful of your body, firstly. Secondly, of your feelings. So the feelings we're talking about aren't emotions. We're talking about pleasant feelings, unpleasant feelings, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant feelings. The third one is of your mind. And then fourthly is of phenomena, right? So the Dhammas. So those are the 4 foundations of mindfulness. All of that is a way for us to cultivate our mindfulness and make it stronger. So we've got different things that we can contemplate on. Okay, so Amy, I hope that, is there anything you wanted to add with that, since this was your comment?
Thank you for your clarification. You went very well. I don't think there's not any more thing I can add. It is in the practice, right?
Yes. Yeah.
It's just beyond words. You just need to practice it,
Yeah.
right? So through all those types of meditation that people mention, including yourself and David, right? It encompasses all the factors of enlightenment there, right? You see, you need the effort. Firstly, you need the mindfulness, right? Okay, so once you have the mindfulness, you have this, you are actually contemplating in the Dhamma, which is the mean you see anicca, dukkha, anatta, the impermanency, right? Okay, and because anything that's impermanent, it gives you suffering, dukkha, and if that is something that you out of your control, right? There's no self-entity there to control it, so you see anatta. So in all aspects of our life, you can see these 3 characteristics clearly in your moment to moment. Try to see that, right? That means in the bare awareness, you see things as they really are, not what you assume to be. So you're in a state of equanimity, right? In your daily life, try to apply in the daily life. So it's beyond meditation. Sometimes you also do what they call the pathless path under Rupert Spira. At the moment, I'm going into it, right? We have some guidance on that. On Rupert Spira's, what they call his videos. You are free, you have a look on his poem. So he said, being, right? Just being. I'm going nowhere, you see. So it's very good, the awareness in the awareness, just bare awareness, okay? Just in the being. So there's nobody experiencing, but it's just being in the moment. And then the 4 factors for enlightenment is all there. In our body, like you do the body scanning, your breathing and everything, you're walking, okay? Those are the body meditation in your walk. And your metta, the 4 Brahma Viharas, your loving kindness, compassion, mudita, your sympathetic joy, and your equanimity, upekkha. So when you use all these 4 Brahma Viharas, then you don't think of yourself, right? So through that, you cultivate the 10 wholesome states. So in the Metta Sutta, so we did very deeply also. That means almost word for word, we break the whole sutta up. So we go through the Pali, you see, Uju, Suju, you know, Uju means upright, Suju means exceedingly upright, Suvacho, you're obedient, Chasamudu, you're gentle, Anatimani, you're humble. So all the 10 perfections are there. So you're humble, you're obedient, you're gentle, and you are controlled in your senses. You're courteous, not impolite, and you're prudent, right? Nipakocha, apagabo, you're courteous. Kulesu ananugido, that means you do not hanker over families. Families here means religion. That means I don't say that my religion is good, yours is no good. My way of practice is good, your teacher is no good. You don't discriminate totally, right? Either in religion, in your country, or in your spouses, or in your, you know, relationships with people. You don't feel like I'm superior or you're inferior and all that, you see. I am better learned, you know, in education than you, you know, I know more than you. All this is discrimination. So until you come to this, then you don't qualify, right? According to the absolute sense to share your loving kindness with people. So once you have these 10 wholesome states, which is going back to the 5 precepts, right? You know, the non-killing, non-stealing, non-sexual misconduct, and the 4 verbal actions, which is non-harsh speech, slander, non-gossip, frivolous talk, okay, and non-lying. So these are 4. So 7 plus 3, the thought, your mindfulness of your thought, which is renunciation instead of, that means generosity instead of greed, hatred, and delusion. You take it out, right? Non-ill will, non-harming thoughts. So these are the 10 wholesome states that go against the 10 unwholesome states. So once you overcome that with all your effort, so you cultivate your effort, right, to remain, you know, in that wholesome state of mind till you attain Nibbana. So you have to make an adhisthana, a goal to arrive at Nibbana, because that should be.
Amy, can I just tell you a funny story about enlightenment? This is
sorry, I took too much. I will stop there. Okay, I apologize. I will stop. Yeah, thank you.
Not at all. That was wonderful sharing. I just wanted to share a little story. Just to, I think you'll all enjoy it. There's a Buddhist master who's well renowned, and he's giving a talk about enlightenment, and he's waxing lyrical about the experience. And someone in the audience says, can you tell me more about this experience? And then suddenly there was a voice at the back of the room. This is very appropriate for me with my wife behind me. And she says, don't talk to him about enlightenment. He's not enlightened. He's never had an enlightenment experience. And everybody laughed. And it was a profound truth that was being conveyed actually in that setting. And that is that enlightenment is nothing special. Charlotte Shoko Beck wrote a book called Nothing Special. It's just ordinary presence, here and now, simple as a pimple. So with that, I'd like to throw it back to Tina, and I think we're having so much fun, we're going over time.
No, we are, and actually very soon I'll be throwing it over to Meredith, but I just want to say this. Thank you all so much for your contribution to the discussions today. I had a lovely time, and I hope you also enjoyed it too. But importantly, I really hope that these sessions inspire you for your own practice, not only just about knowledge, but actually live it, because the Dhamma is beautiful. It is something that will literally change lives. So having these practices in your day-to-day life, not just on the cushion, which is very important, but as I emphasize, moment to moment, that is where we practice. And that is also the beauty and joy of this practice and the togetherness that we have as friends as well. And so next week, David and I will be back again. Don't know what we'll be talking about. Would love to hear from you what you would like us to talk about. If you want to talk about your meditation, some challenges that you have, or even your day-to-day problems, which maybe we can talk about as well in terms, because a lot of the stuff we're talking about, it's not just formal practice, but it's about how to make your life more enriching and also to minimize the suffering as well in your life as well. So come back again next week. Would love to have you and your friends here again. And I will now hand over to Meredith.
Thank you so much, Tina and David. Oh, every time when we have these dynamic duos workshops, this time is running very fast. Nobody wants to leave, and it's always not enough. Yeah, so luckily that's why we have two weeks workshop. We know that one is never enough. So next week, remember to come back. I mean, I'm sure that everyone gets a tremendous value from this workshop. So many type of meditation. I particularly like Tina's description about having a briefcase full of your tools, a different type of meditation, so then you can open up and say, okay, I can use this one at this moment. I really like that. There's so many other types that I haven't really learned. And there's so many questions that I believe that many of you would like to ask. So come back next week. Bring more friends. Come back next week. I'm sure everyone will benefit from this workshop. And I'm very, very grateful for Tina and David. Both of them are very, very busy people, and yet they are contributing their times, offering dana to the associations to offer their teaching. So thank you very much. And if anyone would like to support the associations or both the associations for things that they do, please offer your dana generously. The link as Tina has put in the chat, or you can just check from the website. So for that, thank you all for being here tonight. It's so lovely to see everyone every Thursday night. And yeah, I hope everyone have a good night. And thank you very much.
Thank